because I kind of bring it back just a tad bit. My question is, does it matter to maintain your black identity as a conservative or Republican in politics? Isn't it important?
Yes, it's it is important. So when you go back, so for example, when you go back into the Republican Party, and again, it's like what I told you, the pro-black wing of the Republican Party in the early days, from 1854 going forward, those were considered the radical Republicans, or what you know as the stalwarts, right? And so these were the Republicans, along with Thaddeus Stevens, in which my elementary school alma mater is named after. These Republicans were pretty much, for the most part, upset with Abraham Lincoln because he was slow to end slavery, and they wanted to stamp out all traces of the Confederacy, and they supported the upward mobility of African Americans in the South. Now, and then so what will become, so you got the stalwarts, which will become somewhat, I guess, known in a derogatory form as the Negro Republican Party. And then you would have people in the Republican Party refer to it as the Black and Tan Coalition. And so on the opposite side of that, with some moderate or farther right Republicans, you have what, so they were, it was a term coined by, I can't remember his name, African American, but it was a term coined by African American Republican. And the other part of it that opposed our upward mobility was called the Lily White side of the Republican Party, right? And so the Lily White side of the Republican Party would have people like future presidents like William Howard Taft, Herbert Hoover, James P. Newton. And so within the Republican Party in and of itself, there was always this split about how, what the relationships, what Black people would be. So the Republican Party in and of itself, when you get to the moderates and the people that are far right, again, they supported. So when I'm trying to remember the Republican that won the presidency going into Reconstruction, but they supported his presidency. They supported his presidency with the understanding that troops will be taken out of the South. That he would have a Southern Democrat in his cabinet, that they would continue building the railroad, legislation to industrialize the South, and the right to deal with Black people as the South saw fit without Northern intervention, right? And so so you talk about, because again, I'm Republican, so but when you talk about the Republican Party and its relationship with Black people, again, there has been a lot of good work that's been done, but then also too there's been a faction in the Republican Party that's somewhat been that's been sensitive or has aligned itself with or had a soft hand to those in the South. So the Black, for those reasons, from Sandog's perspective, the Black identity, even in the conservative side of the house, is still important.
Okay. Brother Reverend Childress, you wanted to jump on this question?
Yeah, a little bit, and certainly I'm learning so much here.
Yeah, we got some historians on this panel, boys.
Yes, we do, but we're the only people, minority, that was deemed to be 3/5 human, and also ascribed by the Dred Scott decision. So our identity as persons, as African Americans, is more important than any other ethnicity, simply due to our inception here and what our perception was. So I think this is something that right now, if we don't grasp back, we're going to lose our grandchildren, and every generation that comes up after that will be as lost as seemingly often we are right now. So that ball was dropped, I think, back in the 60s. But I think it could be picked up back again, and I'm grateful for those who I feel are beginning to do that, and it has to be on the grassroots level. And I think once again, that history needs to be known, and I think that would be insightful as well as inciting to make sure that we keep our identity, though Republican, though conservative, as Black people, African Americans.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Short, are you there? Okay.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Fine.
Yes. Did you hear the question?
About just blacks in the Republican Party.
Maintaining your identity as a conservative Republican, your Black identity. Is that important these days, or is it like a non-factor?
Well, if you don't have an identity, that's like a person not having a manifest for a flight or a chart for a voyage. You've got to know who you are to have some idea of where you want to go.
Okay.
But for me, the issue is less about a political party than who you are as a people. And I'll just go somewhere the Reverend didn't go. One thing that has really hurt us that most people are not honest about, and I don't care how people feel, the Black people that made all the progress after the Civil War were primarily a Protestant Black population. Our heritage was primarily Protestant, Christian. We have rejected a lot of the things that our ancestors had. The excuse has been, well, this all came from slavery, and we don't need anything old, and we need something new. And in reality, whether it's the scam Africanist or the others, they have nothing for which to replace what they want to get rid of. Okay? So, thou shalt not kill and love neighbor as self, those are great ideas. Put those within a political movement and you've got something. To have no absolute values or morals or ethics and then introduce politics, you introduce anarchy. So we need to have an identity that is comprehensive, not just who you are in terms of what you look like or where you're from, but what are your core beliefs? If we in any way were true to any true religious belief system, it would be very difficult for people to blindly support the Democrats. Every which kind of thing we believe in as a people, they're against. But then again, at the same time, since we've lost our way as a people, we don't even know who we are to have an idea of what it is we should believe to be able to move in the direction that we have to go. You know, so we do need to, and it shouldn't be wrapped up in one part or the other. I genuinely believe that Black folks should be Democrats, Republicans.
Agreed.
They could be every which kind of thing they can, provided our interests are addressed.
Agreed.
My comment to Black people all the time is, we always say we should be like the Jews. Well, the Jews are in all the parties.
Yeah.
And whatever party they're in, they speak out as Jews. Unabashedly so. And I don't criticize that. I don't think it's wrong for Jewish people to advocate for Jewish causes. But I do have a problem with Black folks. It doesn't even have to be political party. If they become a Jehovah's Witness, they can't be Black anymore. If they become a Roman Catholic, they can't be Black anymore. Or whatever it is, they always have to. We're looking for institutions or entities that are foreign to us to convey identity. I want to add one other thing. I try not to use the term African American as much, not out of shame of having African origins or African relations or none of that, but every day I get up and I look at my mother, and my mother is an Indian or an Aborigine American, just the facts. When I was at the archives on Friday and I was looking up my family down in Georgia, they were living in an area named, It's Masuki, Georgia, which is named for a sectum or a group, a subset of the Seminole people, the Masuki Seminoles. I'm not trying to deny African origins because I'm very familiar with my African roots, but I'm also learning about my Aboriginal or Aborigine, my indigenous roots to this country. Okay, so my great grandmother's an Indian medicine woman, it's a fact. And all Indians weren't light skinned with long, straight hair. So this is another part of identity that we need to deal with quick, fast, in a hurry, because there are now people who are not in any way connected to the Aborigine population of this country that are claiming to be tribes and they're getting money and benefits. Are you understanding me? And so we need to know who we are comprehensively and use every identity. If I can get any compensation for being a descendant of the Piscataqua or Seminole or Cherokee people, then I want it. I have a right to it, whether anybody likes it or not. And as far as the Republican Party goes, it's like anything. They've been sometimey. The Republicans got to a certain point where they began to take black people for granted. And so black folks went to the Democrats to get welfare under Roosevelt. And so what they would give us is a little bit of practically nothing, where the Republicans offered nothing at all at a certain point. Let's be honest about this. The Republicans, when they were in power, wouldn't do anything to stop lynching. The Republicans didn't do anything to counter Jim Crow. The Republicans didn't do anything to stop racial programs where black folks are massacred. They basically, as Lily White, as your historian explained, basically kicked black people to the curb. So in reality, what we should be looking at is what can we do for ourselves, and I don't care, I'll say this as a Christian believer, with God and good people, what can we accomplish to better our situation for ourselves and our posterity?
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Brother T. West, do you want to take on the question about maintaining black identity as a conservative or Republican?
Okay, so what is the difference between a conservative and a black conservative?
Oh, no. I think you guys made that distinction if we want to revisit the question, but the question on the table right now is it important to maintain your black identity as a Republican or conservative?
Well, I can only speak for those blacks who are Republicans. I'm not a Republican. I'm a registered independent. Let me just say this, and I'll be brief with it. Historically, what we had what white America called the Union, and preserving the Union. And they did throw blacks under the bus, they being the Republicans. We knew what the Dixie Democrats were doing. We knew about that. But the Republicans did as well to preserve the Union, to preserve white America. So they did that. And that's their nature, and generally they will do that, and they will do it again. Okay? So we have to recognize and realize that that is a fact, and that's a historical fact, and it is a fact right now. They will do it. But they will work with you as black people. They will work with you if they see benefits in it for themselves. Okay? They're not doing it in most cases simply because it's the moral thing to do, or you're black and it's the moral thing. No. That's not how they think. They don't think like that. Now I'm not saying all of them. I'm talking about the majority. I'm talking about the power brokers. This is how they roll. So with being black and being conservative, you have whites, they wanted to conserve the Union. Now I'm using the word conserve. I mentioned earlier, preserve the Union, save the Union. Okay, but we want to conserve the status quo. We want to maintain the status quo. Therefore, we will give the enslavers restitution if they lost the blacks who were enslaved to them.
Mm-hmm.
We will give them reparations. Okay? We will make them whole. This is the real America. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Even the Democrat Party will throw you under the bus. How are they throwing you under the bus? Well, they're making the situation cloudy and confusing when you as a people, whether you consider yourself a Native American, or whether you consider yourself an African American, whatever you consider yourself as, and the Native Americans threw you under the bus too a few years ago. They threw you under the bus. They said, no, you're not getting any of this money, black folks.
Right.
We had you as a part of our tribe before, but you ain't getting none of this money. Okay? All right, so when you look at what their interests are, they being white America, versus what your interests are, they will perpetually use and put forward ahead of you other groups. Now the big push is LGBTQ.
Mhm.
No, they don't want to talk about racism. No, they want to talk about genderism. See, this is how they operate. They operate like this all the time. The moment you're thinking that you are about to have a great breakthrough as black people in America, then they push something else out there. Nancy Pelosi. Oh, no, we're not going to use the Mr., the Mrs., we're going to use gender neutral pronouns. Russia don't tolerate that.
That's right.
China does not tolerate that. All right, I'm done with that. Look, we got a lot of questions here.